Hey everybody, welcome to today's update on Daily IoT. Just a hodgepodge update today of things that are going on. I'm juggling a lot of things doing this project. And so first up, still working on the schematic and getting that all laid out. And as part of that, I'm working on the power block, which is fairly simple. And I was looking at the component that was recommended through the predictable hardware report. It's a linear voltage regulator, a low dropout LDO. And I was looking and found that in the datasheet that the quiescent current for that particular component is 90 microamps. Now, for those that aren't familiar, quiescent current is basically the current that the component is using when nothing is happening on the output. So the whole purpose of a voltage regulator is to take an input voltage at one level and translate it into a different level. And so in my case, that's the battery voltage, anywhere from 4.2 down to 3.5 volts, and change it into a nice steady 3.3 volts. And so even when nothing's connected to that 3.3 volts, this component will draw about 90 microamps of current. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of current, but when you're doing a battery powered application like the puck, that turns into lots of days chewed off of your battery life when it's just sitting there. Now, there is no such thing as zero quiescent current, and so you're always going to have some amount of loss. But when I was comparing that to the design of the particle photon power supply, I noticed that the component that they use had a 50 microamp no-load current, and they use a slightly different approach to it. They use a switching converter, which essentially changes the voltage by switching it on and off really fast to lower it, to create a lower average. It's very noisy, not as in sound, you can't hear it, but it creates a lot of electrical noise, voltage noise on your power lines. And so it requires some extra parts, an inductor and things like that, which I was ready to do and change to when I reached out to John at Predictable Designs, and he explained why you would use an LDO in this case when the input voltage and output voltage are close together, and was actually able to recommend a different regulator that has a lower quiescent current, down to as low as 20 microamps, because the photon supply had a 50 microamp no-load current versus 90. That 40 microamp difference can lead to, based on the size of the battery that I want to use, about 100 days difference in battery life, which is pretty significant. And so I think we've struck a good balance with using an LDO and having a lower no-load current. And so I feel like we're doing good there. I'm still just working on the layout. I'm comparing a bunch of different e-paper schematics to see which components I want to use. And so that's coming along. It's slow work for me. And so there's that. I'm still reaching out to people that have built products on Particle. I have a phone call tomorrow for that. Maybe two phone calls. I have one that I have to follow back up with, but still trying to gather information from people who have been there and done it to make sure that I'm thinking of all the right things and not missing anything with Particle. And so the last update that I have for today is an update on Particle Studios. So I've been reaching out, like I said, to find quotes and things, and one of the people I reached out to was Particle itself, since they recently launched Particle Studios, which I'll put a link to in the description. You probably won't need it, and you'll see why in just a minute. And so I reached out and said, hey, I'm interested in this. It's this idea of Particle has people there to help you from idea to manufacturing all the way through, like the process that I'm going through. And so I reached out to them and said, hey, can I get more information about this? Is this something that I'm even eligible for? Is there a certain company size that you're looking for on this? And I got a response that said, yeah, check out our webpage, which is where I just was, and I read it all and I had more questions, and so I emailed. So we went back and forth a couple of times, but I finally got a response from a person that said, yes, we can help with any aspect of the IoT journey from idea to manufacturing. Engagements start around $400,000. So I am obviously not the audience that they are going for with Particle Studios. And I mean, quite frankly, I'm not sure who the audience is at $400,000. I mean, you have to have quite the product, and no disrespect to Particle. I love Particle. I'm using Particle, but I think if you're building a product that involves that much investment, you're probably not going to use a Particle device. You're probably going to go a little lower and cheaper. And so I'm not sure who they're targeting, if that's companies looking to get into IoT, but yeah, obviously I don't have $400,000. And even if I did, that is not a fair value trade for me at all. Based on the predictable hardware report, even if I were to farm out all of this and not do anything and just act as project manager, I'd spend $30,000 to $40,000. And so $400,000, I mean, again, I'm not sure who the target audience is there, but it's definitely not me. That is the update for today. I'm going to skip the question of the day, and I have a request of the day today, and that is, I've been getting a lot of new subscribers. People are subscribing every single day, and first of all, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it, but it's a little bit of a black box. Somebody somewhere out in the internet, ether of the internet, is hitting subscribe, and my number's going up every day, but I don't have a sense of who you are, and I would like to know more about who you are. And so if you have subscribed, if you're finding this journey interesting and you're following along and you've subscribed or you're going to subscribe, I really appreciate it. Could you please send me an email, kevin@sidwar.com, just to say, hey, I followed you. You can tell me why you followed me or what you like or don't like, or even just to say, hey, I just followed you. And really, I want to put a person to the subscribe. And this isn't me trying to collect emails to spam you. I am not spamming you. This is my official, I will not send you spam email. I just want to have, like I said, a connection that I can reach back out to say, hey, thanks so much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. And just know that there's a person on the other end of the line there. And so that's my request for the day. If you subscribe, thank you. Send me an email so I can know who you are. Maybe tell me where you're from. That would be awesome. And so I appreciate everybody watching and also subscribing to Daily IoT, the show where together we're learning how to make the Internet of Things one day at a time.